Good afternoon. Welcome to my math class. I'm Mr. Gallett. I will be your math teacher for this year. We have a lot to do. You are going to today be learning both academic concepts and you will be also learning procedures. Procedures of how my room works and what my expectations are. I will focus mostly on math concepts up here on my board, but periodically I will pause and I will go over a procedure for my classroom. We already started with a few procedures. You came in the room and you sat down into your assigned seat right away, and you immediately started. Most of you figured it out pretty quickly. You're going to have a warm-up every day. I don't need to tell you what to do. You come in, you get started. One thing that I want to clarify for most of you, I do not see a lot of you, you must write down the title of the lesson. Usually it will say lesson and then a number. It'll say lesson 5.2 or lesson 8.6. Today is just called the introductory lesson, and then it says warm up. Write down the words warm up. Right up there at the top of your paper. In the future, you do not have to copy the instructions. You have to read the instructions because they tell you what to do, but you do not have to copy the instructions because that's just a time-wasting thing. You do need to copy the question, and then you need to execute the question to the best of your ability. Now, your time for working is up. Everyone take your pencil. That's what you're using right now is a pencil, and place the pencil on your desk. I placed a marker on your desk. Pick the marker up. From today through the whole year, you may not mark your paper or anyone else's paper using a pencil or black ink. You must use a colored pen, a marker, a colored pencil, a crayon. Something that is a bright color that is easy to see. Today I have provided you a bright colored marker for you to use. Starting tomorrow, the next time I see you, you're going to have your own marker or colored pencil. I'll talk more about that in a few minutes. I'm going to get volunteers for the answers. If you get the answer correct, use the marker and make a nice big C next to the question number. If you get the question wrong, put an X. Don't worry about it right now. Trust me when I say you're going to make 4,000 mistakes over the course of this year. So if you're going to get upset about making a mistake today, don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. Okay? When you do make a mistake, you have a major job. Your job is to write down the correct answer, and your job is to try and learn what your mistake was. We'll get to that in a moment. First, let's find out what the answers are to these difficult questions. You may either raise your hand or you may wait till I call on you. But I will call on you, so try to keep your spirits up. Try to keep your head involved in the class. Number one, what did you get? Okay, we'll start with, is it Kiara, and then we'll go to Natalie. So Kiara, Natalie, and then Stephen. Kiara, what'd you get?
33.
33. Okay. Sure? Okay, Stephen?
33.
You also got 33. All three people got 33. That's interesting. Did anyone get a different answer? Catalina, did I say that right? Catalina and then David.
Negative 33.
Negative 33.
I messed up. I got negative symbol.
Negative.
21.
Well, why did you say you messed up? I didn't even put the answer.
Oh no, I felt.
You felt like you messed up. Okay, well, I appreciate you sharing. The correct answer is 15. So, if you did not get the correct answer, no big deal. You just mark your answer incorrect, and then write down the correct answer on your paper. In about 3 minutes, we're going to go over exactly how to do that question. Okay? What about number 2? What'd you get? Number 2, we'll start with George, Angela, and then we'll go to Cameron. 23. You agree with him?
4.
4? Okay. Any other answers? We've got 2 people think 23. You think 4. Adriana.
4.1.
What is it?
4.1.
4.1. 4.1, 23, 23. Cameron,
4.1.
you think 4.1 also, and hold on, I need to. Andy. 21. So we have a big disagreement. We got answers, all different answers. The correct answer is 23.
You put a C in this one.
So mark it correct if you got it right, which I already know 2 people did. And if you got it wrong, put an X and write down the correct answer. Now, we're going to learn how to do it. Before I continue, a rule about my class, backpacks. Most of you have already followed my rule without even knowing it, but I'm going to use Valerie as my example. She's being very kind. No, stay right there. Where Valerie has her backpack is not allowed in my room. There's a very specific reason that I'm not going to talk about right now. I will tell you in the future. Backpack may not be here. It may not be here. It may be on the floor. It may be hanging off the chair, the back of the chair. You may not have it on your lap. You may not have it on your legs. Okay? There's a very specific reason that I will talk about in the future. So anyone who's breaking my rule, please fix it now. It's the first day of school in 7th grade. You're meeting 3 teachers today, and you're going to meet 2 tomorrow. And each teacher has some slightly different rules. I know it might be hard to remember which teacher has which rules, but you'll figure it out pretty quickly. And I do need you to make sure you remember that rule. All right, let's go back to the math. Number 1, it says evaluate the expression. Wow, we've got 2 huge words on the first day of school. Evaluate the expression. Well, I'm going to start you off with the first piece of knowledge. This is called an expression. So we are being asked to evaluate that. I'm going to give you the next hint, and then I'm going to ask someone to explain. What are we supposed to do with this and this? What are we supposed to do with those? Got 2 people who have an idea. 3 people. 5. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 people who have an idea. Is it Nali? Did I say it right? Okay, Nali, and then Amani.
So you just take the variable and what it represents and just substitute it, but not substitute it, put it into the expression.
Okay, what were you going to say?
So you take the number for the variable in the expression.
Okay, I love the way both of you said it. I love some very important words. Substitute. That was great. Okay? Yeah. This is telling you that the z is supposed to be a -9, so you're supposed to take out the z and replace it with a -9. And same thing with the x. So let's do that. So everyone using your colored marker, because I didn't hear anyone who got this question right, with your colored marker, you are now following along with me. We are now working as a group. We're going to rewrite the expression with these numbers in the right place. Everyone write a 6. Before we write the next little bit, you have to know what does it mean when there's a number next to a letter. That is important. What does it mean when there's a number next to a letter? We got a whole bunch of people who know. Savannah.
You multiply it.
Very good. It means multiply. Outstanding. So when we rewrite it, multiplication dot. No longer are you going to use that little x for multiplication. You use a multiplication dot. And now we have x squared. And we have to put a -2 in place of the x. And it's being squared. Now we have to add z, but z is -9. And now we have rewritten the expression with the values in place of the variables, just as Amani and Kali said. Thank you. Nali, that's what I said. Nali, thank you. I apologize. So now we have to do what the first word says. We now have to evaluate. evaluate. That means find the value of. Find the value of. But there's an order in which we have to do things. There's an order. What is the order? What has to be done first? What has to be done first? Alexis.
You have to do the things in the parentheses.
Good. The things in the parentheses. Very good. To be more specific, the operations in the parentheses. Now, I have parentheses right here, and I have parentheses right here. But I didn't really use them as parentheses. All I really did was put them there so that we didn't get confused between this plus and this negative sign. Look what would have happened if I didn't use parentheses. Look how confusing this would be. That looks a little confusing, right? Plus, minus. So she's right. You're supposed to use do what's inside parentheses first. If it was something like this, then yes, we would do everything inside the parentheses first. But up here, there's nothing to do inside the parentheses. I'm only using the parentheses to help me see things correctly. Okay? So now we'll just say, okay, parentheses are done. What comes next? We've got a whole bunch of people who know. Essence. Exponents. And she said it with a great confidence about her. Exponents must be done first. And that's this right here. -2 squared. So that's what we have to do next. So, on the next line, we're going to write 6 times. We're going to leave a little space, write plus -9. And then we have to evaluate -2 squared. What does -2 squared come out to? What is its value? Got 2 people who know what its value is. Okay, Kiara, go ahead.
4.
Yeah, it's 4. It means -2 times -2, which is +4. So notice that I rewrote the whole expression on the next line, but whatever value I got, I replaced. So we did exponents. There are no others. That's what Essence told us to do, and she was right. What is the next operation that we must do? What's next? It's going to take me a long time to learn names. DeAndre.
You have to multiply and divide left or right.
Good. So in this case, do I multiply or divide?
You multiply.
Very good. That was a great explanation, DeAndre. So we're going to multiply, boom, right there. 6 times 4. Now I'm going to pause and teach you a procedure for my room. There are many times when I like to survey the whole class at once. And a lot of teachers will survey the class and say, raise your hand if. But I don't like to do that, because then you just got a big mess of hands and I can't tell who's who, and I have a different way of communicating. It's called the thumbs up system. So I may ask a question of the class like, who's wearing red? And if you want to say you're wearing red, then you would give me what's called a thumbs up. And this is how you do it. You put your thumb up and you put the bottom of your fist on your desk like this, so that you are communicating just with me, as opposed to this where you're telling everybody. Right? This is like saying, look at me, look at me. This is just saying, this is for Mr. Gallo. Okay? So I'm going to ask my first survey question. Give me a thumbs up if you are a member of Rockets B. Good. Put your thumbs down. Give me a thumbs up if you are wearing the color blue today, anywhere on your outfit. Okay, a lot of you. Put your thumbs down. Okay? Give me a thumbs up if you can do 6 times 4 in your head really quickly. Good, that's what I expected. Put your thumbs down. Now you've learned the thumbs up system, and so 6 times 4, what do we get? George?
24.
24. So now on the next line, I am going to write, and this was 24, and now I just have one operation left. 24 plus negative 9. Now, you're going to learn more about how to add 24 plus negative 9. Some of you may know it, some of you may not. I'm not going to worry about it right now, but trust me when I say that it comes out to 15. So lastly, we write the answer to the question and circle our answer. And so this is the sequence of work that it would take to figure this expression out, or find the value of it. Does anyone have any questions on how we did that? Any questions? Good, we're doing pretty well so far. So we are going to actually not do number 2. I had a higher rate of success on number 2. It's a similar process to number 1, and I need the time for some other things that we're going to be doing. Okay? So here's what I would like you to do. Take the marker, put the cap back on it because it's mine and not yours. Put it back on your desk and pick up your pencil. And what I would like you to do is we are now done with what's called the warm-up. This is something you're going to do pretty much every day. When we're done with a section, we draw a line across our paper to tell me that we're starting the next section. So everyone draw a line across your paper. You can make a squiggle line or a perfectly straight line. I don't really care. As long as it's easy for me to see what's going to come next. And now I would like you to put your pencil down. You are not going to use it for a few minutes. All right. Welcome to Pre-Algebra. I will be your teacher this year, Mr. Gallant. That's how you spell my name, G-A-L-I-T. So, what is pre-algebra? Why are you studying? Well, pre-algebra has the word algebra in it. Pre-algebra is basically the foundation course for algebra. So we're going to really talk about algebra. You just saw some during the warm-up. But what is it and why do we study it? Why is it important? Some of you hate it already. You don't even know why. It just makes you uncomfortable maybe. But you're going to understand when I'm done why it's so important. First of all, what is it? It's a branch of math that deals with numbers and how they relate to each other. Very, very important in making our world work. It is an incredibly powerful tool for all sorts of different aspects of life. Give me a thumbs up if you know what a smartphone is. Put your thumbs down. Give me a thumbs up if you've ever heard of a product called the iPad. Okay, put your thumbs down. None of these things would exist without algebra. It doesn't mean that the engineers sat there and did equations all day. That's not what happens. What you must understand is that algebra is the basis for everything else. Those engineers who designed the iPad and made it so amazing couldn't have done what they did without knowing algebra. Algebra leads to other ideas. So you must understand algebra. It's extremely important. So you see I've listed science, engineering, economics, finance, and all sorts of, you pretty much name the field, and you're going to use algebra in some way. The word algebra is Arabic, meaning bringing together broken parts. It's about finding missing pieces. That's what algebra is used for a lot. It was invented by an Arab mathematician, Muhammad ibn Musa al-Khwarizmi. I have trouble pronouncing it, but I came pretty close. And this mathematician's last name, when it was Americanized or anglicized, it became the word algorithm. Algorithm is a sequence of steps to solve a problem. That's what an algorithm is. And lastly, the most important reason for algebra. It's considered a turning point in your education. So let me do an example here. It's when you start thinking abstractly. So let me explain what that means. I am holding some pink markers. Valerie, how many am I holding?
2.
Are you certain? How do you know? You can count them? Okay. Okay. How many am I holding now? Okay, how come you can't count them now? Okay, so that was the key word. So you know that there's 2 because you can see them. You're right, and you can count them. But you can count them because you can see them. Okay? Very good, Valerie. Thank you for your help. So being able to see or touch or feel or hear, that's concrete. Concrete means you can feel it, see it, touch it, hear it. Abstract, you can't. And that's what all these X's and Y's and these variables represent, is things that we can't see, but we can imagine. This is very difficult for a lot of people, not just young people. It's hard for some adults because it's a different level of thinking. Most people could have told me that there were 2 markers. Children, adults, my 3-year-old son could tell me that there were 2. So that's a basic level of using your brain. When I ask you to imagine quantities that you can't see, that's a different level of thinking. And so that's what you're entering into starting this year and moving through next year. Okay? And that's why it's so important. Questions about what algebra is and why we study it? Good, you guys are doing a good job. Keep it up. Here are some examples of things that you will be able to do by the end of 8th grade. So look at, does that look easy? Give me a thumbs up if you think you can do that right now. It's good that you have confidence in yourself, so you can put your thumbs down, but I guarantee that there's not one student in here who can do that. My students who leave my algebra honors class have trouble doing it. But most of you will know how to do it by the end of next year. Right now, this should look like a foreign language to you. Quite literally, you should look at it and go, what? What is that? I don't even know what it is. I don't even know what I'm looking at. You shouldn't. But the funny thing is by the end of 8th grade, you will know exactly what you're looking at. And you will actually know how to manipulate or solve all of these. One thing that you will do a lot of this year and next year is making pictures out of math. We call them graphs, but that's really what they are, is pictures of math. You're going to learn this, how to do this in 8th grade. You're going to learn how to do some of this year with me. Okay? So, these are just some examples. Any questions? Okay. Supplies. You do not have to write it down. It's in the welcome letter you got this morning. Give me a thumbs up if you got a welcome letter this morning. Good, put your thumbs down. But I just want to clarify a couple of things. So, for my class, you need a binder. So those of you who have a spiral notebook, you didn't do anything wrong, you're not a terrible person, you just didn't know. But there is a very specific reason why we use a binder instead of a spiral notebook. Almost every day you come to my class, you're going to be taking something out and then you'll be putting something back in. You can't take things out and put it back in with a spiral notebook. With a spiral notebook, all you can do is take it out once and then I can't put it back in. I could shove it back in, but then what happens is it gets crumpled, it falls out, or whatever. To stay organized in my class, you need a binder. So today is Monday. You have my class next tomorrow. I will expect you by Thursday, which is my 3rd class, to have yourself set up with a binder. And I do not want a big one. A 1-inch binder will be perfect. Fill it with about 100 sheets of paper and bring that in. That's perfect. No dividers are necessary at all. I don't want them. I don't need them. My system couldn't be any simpler. Okay? Excuse me.
no rush. I'll get together when it slows down.
All right. I'm sorry.
Come.
Okay. I apologize for the interruption. So, again, small binder. Trust me, there is absolutely no reason to bring in a large binder. You do not need to be carrying around a binder like this, which is really for the medical profession. It's ridiculous. Okay? So, any questions about binder? Get a bunch of loose leaf paper, leave a lot of it at home, fill your binder with about 100 sheets or so. You don't have to count them out, just put a stack in. You're going to need some graph paper. You're not going to need it right away. So you have a choice. You can either go with your family and buy it now while everyone's ready to go buy school supplies, or you can wait till January when we're going to need it, and then your parents can be like, I'm not buying you anything else. And then you're not going to have it, and then you're going to be kind of stuck scrambling. So you might as well just get the graph paper now, leave it at home. I will tell you when to bring it in. Pencils, pencils, and pencils. We use pencil and colored markers or colored pencils in this room. Okay? It's not okay to use a regular pen. You must use a pencil. A mechanical pencil is fabulous. An erasable pen is the same thing as a pencil. But don't come here tomorrow with a regular pen and be doing your work in pen. Any questions about that? I'll answer your question at the end. All right, you know what? Go ahead. What's your question?
Is it okay if we have whiteout and we still use a pen?
No, because it's going to be just a ridiculous mess. I appreciate you asking, but whiteout you do not need. Okay? All right, and here I already explained, and I'm going to explain again. You need at least one colored pen, pencil, or marker. So today I loaned you one of mine. By tomorrow you're going to have your own. You want to get a pack of markers and share it with your friend? Do it. You want a pack of markers so that you can have a different color every day? Great. That's fantastic. Do it. Okay? Any questions? Okay, and here's one that you may not be used to. You need a dry erase marker. It specifically says dry erase on it. These are a little bit more expensive, so I only expect you really to have one. If you want to buy a package and split the cost with one or two of your friends, that might be a good thing to do. But everyone needs a dry erase marker because you're going to be using mini whiteboards in my room. That's a board like this, but in a smaller rectangle. If you don't have a marker, you won't be able to use one. Okay? Any questions about that? Lastly, very, very, extremely, phenomenally important for everyone in this room, you need to get a 5-function calculator. It's just a basic calculator. Notice that I have 2 calculators with big slashes through them. I don't want the fancy calculator. If your parent already bought you a fancy calculator, that's fine. Bring in the fancy calculator. But if you don't have a calculator yet, and you're going to go buy one, buy a cheap $1 or $2 calculator like these. These are the ones that Florida State provides for the FCAT, and this is one just like it that you get at Office Max, Office Depot, Staples, a generic calculator. It has no special functions except add, subtract, multiply, divide, and square root. Might have the percent function on it. That's fine too. This is all you need. Okay? You will be allowed to use this most days in my class, and you're going to want it. Okay? This is an example of a scientific calculator. It's quite a bit more expensive. I don't need it. It will still do everything we need, but you're paying for stuff that we don't need. We don't need any of these functions up here. Okay? Any questions? So, important things for you to get. Calculator, dry erase marker, colored pen or pencil, binder, pencils, graph paper. Any questions? George.
I have graph paper, but it's in the composition book.
That's fine. That's fine. I have a hole puncher. You can rip it out and use the hole puncher to put it in your binder. Okay? Any other questions? Yes?
Does the binder have to have pockets?
Nope. Nope. Just plain old binder. Good question, though. Okay. Your grade. You should have seen this already once. You should have seen it this morning in your science class. You're going to see it another 3 or 4 times over the next day or so. This is the breakdown of your grade. It's the exact same breakdown that you had last year. 40% tests and quizzes, 25% classwork homework, and 15% quarterly exams, 15% tip, and 5% star. If you were a student in this school last year, you saw this exact same thing last year. What that means is tests and quizzes, extremely important. One test or quiz, one bad grade in test quizzes can heavily affect your grade. Questions? Something possibly unique for my class. The lowest grade I give on a test or quiz is a 50. It is a philosophical belief of mine. Not every teacher shares my belief. It's going to be hard for you to see, but up here I have the grading scale. An A is a 90 to 100. That's basically 10 points, or it's really 11, but it's a range of 10. A B is 80 to 89. A C is 70 to 79. A D is a 60 to 69. All of those grades are basically 10 numbers. Now look at an F. An F goes from a 0 to a 59. That's 60 numbers. So a range of an F is like this, where an A is like this. So if you are a student and you have a bad day, you got sick the night before, you didn't study, you just feel terrible, your parent made you come to school, you take a quiz, and you get a 20%. Well, if I put that in my grade book, that's going to destroy your grade. But there's really no difference between a 20 and a 50. A 50 is an F and a 20 is an F. They're both Fs. So instead of punishing you by putting in the 20, what I do is I put in a 50. It's still not good, but it won't hurt your grade as much as a 20 would. Okay? So it's just a philosophical belief of mine. There are a lot of teachers who do believe the same as me. Some teachers do not, so you'll have different policy for each teacher. Okay? Now, pick up your pencil and turn your paper sideways and along this part of your paper. There's like a little margin line right there. In big letters down the page, you are going to write the name of my website because it's going to be a critical piece of information for you. Make sure you spell it correctly. Algebron, ALGEBRON.blogspot.com. So, this is my website. Right now, it's very plain. There's not a huge amount of interest except on the left and on the right. On the left, I have links to a bunch of pages of mine. There's one in particular right here that says divisibility rules that I'm going to demonstrate later. On the right-hand side, I have links to other websites and other things that you're going to need throughout the year. And some things just for fun. These are puzzles that are very good for brain development. What you will start seeing in the middle every time you have a lesson of mine is a screencast. A screencast is a recording of my entire lesson. And it will be posted as a video right here. If you are ever absent, or you are sick and you just don't feel good and you weren't paying as much attention as you should, you can always come to my website and watch the entire lesson. Or, if you want to fast forward or rewind or watch just a small part of it, you can watch just a small part of it. So, that's the major purpose of this. And I'm going to demonstrate the screencast and stuff like that over the next week or so. I'm going to show you what happens, okay? So don't worry about it yet. Also, my really tech-savvy people, you can put your email address right here, or your parent can put their email address right here. Click the submit button, and then anytime I put something new on my website, you'll get an email telling you that there's something new. So you don't even have to worry about checking my website. You can just wait to get an email, and anytime you get an email, then you come check it. Okay? You got a question?
So is it technically like a camera in here watching?
Well, it's not recording people. It's recording sound, and it's recording what is going on this board right here. So you won't see people's faces. You'll hear voices, and you will see what happens on the screen. So it's kind of like you were sitting in the room watching this screen right here. Okay? Good question. Are there any other... I'm going to go over much more of this in the future, but this is the basics. Tonight, you need to go home. You need to go to this website. You need to bookmark it. If you have an email address or your parent does, you need to put it in here. Also, for right now, my screencasts are hosted on YouTube. If you have a smartphone or an iPad or a tablet and you have the YouTube app, you can actually come down here and subscribe to my YouTube channel, and you can watch the screencasts on your iPad, your iPhone, your tablet, your Kindle, whatever you want to watch it on. You can even watch YouTube on television now. So you could probably watch it on the TV screen. Camera.
What's your YouTube channel name? Because I go on my computer and search up the channel.
You could just type in my last name, Mr. Gallet, and it should come up. I think I just called it Mr. Gallet, but I don't know. I don't think I called it anything in particular. Okay, good question though. Okay? All right. Now turn your paper back to the correct way. And now you are going to learn some math. So you should have a line across your paper, right? There was a line that I had you draw underneath the warm-up. Line across the paper. Good. Underneath that line, you now need to write notes. Every day you will have a warm-up. Every day you will have notes. Notes is basically the lesson. You're going to possibly take a few vocabularies. You'll do some examples. We'll talk about the concept in depth. It might be an activity. It will be different each day. Underneath the word notes, you need to write divisibility rules. A major idea that you guys need to have straight in your head is the concept of whether or not numbers are divisible by other numbers. And I'm going to iron it out today to make sure you are all experts at figuring out divisibility. Well, what is divisibility? What I'm talking about is when one number divided by another number, the result is a whole number with no remainder. We're talking about two numbers that divide with no remainder. For example, 10 divided by 5. 10 divided by 5 is 2, right? 10 divided by 4 is 2.5. That's not a whole number. 2.5 has a remainder. The 0.5 is the remainder. Okay? So we want to know if one number is divisible by another one, that means it does not have a remainder. So there are some tricks that you can use to determine whether or not numbers are divisible by other numbers. You already know some of them. How do you know if a number is divisible by 2? Like if I said 212. Is 212 divisible by 2? What do you think, Natalie? Okay, I love the way you said that. It's an even number. I had other people who had their hands raised. Alexis, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say the same thing as that.
You were going to say exactly like that? That it's an even number? Okay, good, good. So that is actually pretty much the rule. If you want to know if a number is divisible by 2, actually all you need to look at is one digit, the last digit. If the last digit is an even number, then the whole number is divisible by 2. So right now, we're going to talk about the rule for 2. If the last digit is even, then the number is divisible by 2. Let's look at a couple of examples. Example A, 128. I would like to know, is 128 divisible by 2? In other words, if I punch in my calculator 128 divided by 2 and I press the equal sign, will I get a whole number or will I get a decimal? That's my question. Essence, what do you think? Okay, so let's see. I'm going to hit the equal sign and she's right. I get a whole number. But based on the rule, she knew that so easily because all she had to do was look right there. This is a visual rule. All you have to do is look at the number and you should instantly know whether it's divisible by 2. Okay? You look at the number, you instantly know. It's a visual rule. So what about the number 129? Let's do this one by survey. Give me a thumbs up if 129 is divisible by 2. Thumbs up if it's divisible by 2. Nobody? Good, because 9 is an odd number. So it's not divisible by 2. So 128, yes, that was divisible by 2. 129, no, is not divisible by 2. Does anyone have any questions about the rule for 2? So now here's what's going to happen. You're going to learn a bunch more rules, but the next 2 are the hardest ones. So we're going to learn 2 hard ones, and then the rest after that will be a bit easier. The next rule is the rule for 3. Most people coming into my class don't know it off the top of their head, although you may have been taught it in the past. The rule for 3 is a bit of a challenge. The sum of the digits must be divisible by 3, and then the whole number is divisible by 3. That's a little confusing, but once I demonstrate it, most of you will understand with no problem. So let's look at a couple of examples and let me demonstrate for the first one. The number 381. I would like to know, again, if I punch it in my calculator, 381 divided by 3, will I get a whole number or a decimal? Don't answer it yet. You may know already. But now we're going to use this little trick to tell us. So what we do is we add the digits. So we're going to add 3 plus 8 plus 1. What do we get when we add those numbers together? David?
12.
12. Very good. So you get 12. Now look at the number 12. Is the number 12 divisible by 3? Valerie?
Yes.
Yeah, it is. 12 is divisible by 3, which means that 381 is divisible by 3. It's a little trick. So all you have to do is add up the digits, and if the result, this number right here, if the result is divisible by 3, then this number was divisible by 3. So 217. 2 plus 1 plus 7. What do we get? DeAndre.
You get 10.
You get 10. Very good. And Chelsea, is 10 divisible by 3?
No.
No, it's not. Because if I punch 10 in a calculator, divide by 3, I'm going to get a repeating decimal. So that's not divisible by 3, which means this is not divisible by 3. The answer is no. Any questions about that? You guys are doing very well so far. Next one, the rule for 4. Also a bit of a challenging rule. If the last 2 digits, if you put them together and pretend that they're a number, if that number is divisible by 4, then the whole big number is divisible by 4. It's a little confusing to say, so let me demonstrate. Example A, 1,312. We're going to take the last two digits, the 1 and the 2, and we're going to make that a number. 12. And now in your head you're saying, is 12 divisible by 4? And everyone can start nodding, because 12 is divisible by 4. So since this is divisible by 4, then this number is divisible by 4. And so the answer is yes, it is divisible by 4. Example B, 7,019. Take the last two digits and make them a number, 19. And now ask yourself, is 19 divisible by 4? Savannah? No, it's not. 19 is not divisible by 4, which means 7,019 is not divisible by 4. And I can demonstrate that using the calculator to prove it. 7019 divided by 4, you get a decimal. Does anyone have any questions on the rules for 2, 3, and 4? Now, we're going to do 5, 6, 9, and 10. But 5, 6, 9, and 10 are all derivatives, or kind of come from these rules. And you won't have any trouble with the next 4. So one of your homework assignments is going to be to memorize the rules. My suggestion to you is to concentrate on the rule for 2, 3, and 4. If you can get those 3 rules down, then the rest will seem very easy to you. And 2 of them, we're doing 4 more, 2 of them you already know. Yes?
I use math.
You're going to have to hold on one moment. Okay? 1 minute. The rule for 5. The last digit is 0 or 5. This is another visual rule. If the last digit is a 0 or the last digit is a 5, then you know it's divisible by 5. So let's look at 2 examples. It's a visual rule, so all you have to do is look and you know. Give me a thumbs up if 381 is divisible by 5. Good. Nobody should have their thumb up. The answer is no. What about 217? A visual rule. You just look and you know. I see people shaking their heads. No, this is not divisible. Does anyone have any questions about the rule for 5? Okay, the rule for 6, you already know parts of it. It's the only other rule that takes a little bit of effort. And it is the only rule that is different than all the others. The rule for 6 is basically the rule for 2 and the rule for 3 all wrapped into one. If a number is divisible by 2 and it's divisible by 3, then it will also be divisible by 6. Can I have a volunteer raise their hand and tell me, what do you get when you multiply 2 times 3? What do you get? Stephen? 6. So think about it. If a number is divisible by 2 and it's divisible by 3, then it actually logically makes sense that it will also be divisible by 6. But it has to be divisible by both of them. It has to be divisible by both. So here's what I'll do to organize my work. I'm going to do the test for 2, the test for 3, and then we'll see if it's divisible by 6. The rule for 2 is easy. All you have to do is look at the last digit. So this is divisible by 2. But the rule for 3, I actually have to do something. I have to add the digits. 1 plus 1 plus 4. 1 plus 1 plus 4 is 6. 6 is divisible by 3, which means 114 is divisible by 3. If you get a yes, and you get a yes, then this is yes as well. If either of these are no, then that's no. The only way you get a yes here is if you have two yeses. So let's try the number 308. Give me a thumbs up. Is 308 divisible by 2? 308, is it divisible by 2? A lot of people say yes, some people say no. It is divisible by 2 because all you do is look at the last digit. You put your thumb down. Is it divisible by 3? Give me a thumbs up. I'll give you a hint. Is it divisible by 3? Give me a thumbs up. Nobody thinks it's divisible by 3? Good, because it's not. So the answer is no. A yes and a no means a no. If either of these are no, then that is a no. Any questions? I said I'm not. I have to call. The rule for 9. The rule for 9 is the same as the rule for 3. Some of the digits are divisible by 9. It's the same as the rule for 3, except after you get the sum, you see if it's divisible by 9 instead of 3. So let's see how this works. It's nothing new, you just have to apply it to this. So let's see, is the number 1629, 1629, is that divisible by 9? So 1 plus 6 plus 2 plus 9. 1 plus 6 is 7, plus 2 is 9, plus 9 is 18. 18 is divisible by 9, which means 1629 is also divisible by 9. So the answer is yes. Any questions about that? Okay. 2013. 2 plus 0 plus 1 plus 3. 2 plus 0 plus 1 plus 3 equals 6. Is 6 divisible by 9? No, it's not. 6 is divisible by 3, but it's not divisible by 9, so the answer is no. Guys are doing a great job. We're just about done. The last rule everybody knows already. Divisibility by 10. A number is divisible by 10 if the last digit is a 0. $20, $30, $60, $90, $120, $180, $260, $4,440. These are all numbers that are divisible by 0. I'm sorry, but divisible by 10 because they have a 0. So, 220, this is another visual rule. 220, look at the last digit. It's a 0, it's divisible by 10. 221, it's got a 1 as the last digit, not divisible by 10. Does anyone have any questions on what we did? Any questions on any of these rules? Okay, so we are done with the notes for today. So we are going to draw a new line across our paper, and that tells us that we are going to the next section, which is called classwork. And so, you can either write the word classwork or you can put a big CW, that's fine with me. And your assignment is worksheet 14, numbers 1 through 6. I'm going to hand you the worksheet in a moment, but we're going to do number 1 together first. So all it is a series of numbers, and you have to tell whether they're divisible by 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9, or 10. So number 1, the question is 44. So we want to know, is 44 divisible by 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9, or 10? So we'll start with 2. If it's divisible by a number, we're going to write the number down right here as part of our answer. We'll write it right here. If it's not, we won't write it down. We only want to write down the numbers it's divisible by. So is 44 divisible by 2? Someone raise their hand and tell us whether you think it is or not. Angela?
Yes.
Yes, it is. So everyone's going to write a 2 right here. Now, underneath, if you have to do any calculations, you show your work here, and then we'll write the answer up here. So now we need to do the rule for 3. And the rule for 3 is we add the digits, and then we figure out, is that number divisible by 3? So is 44 divisible by 3? What do you think? 44 divisible by 3, Cameron? No, it is not divisible by 3, so we're not going to put a 3 on the list. Is it divisible by 4? This is a visual rule where you just look. Savannah?
Yes.
Yeah, it is. 44 is divisible by 4, so we'll write down a 4 on our list like that. What about the rule for 5? DeAndre, is it divisible by 5? No, because there has to be a 5 or a 0 here, so it's not divisible by 5. Is it divisible by 6, 9, 10? Raise your hand and give me one of them that's divisible by. Okay, does anyone want to make a statement? Raise your hand and make a statement about this question.
6 is not divisible.
It's not divisible by 6. Very good. Is it divisible by anything else? No. So this is it. This is our answer. So now circle your answer so it's easy to see. Does anyone have any questions on what you're going to do? So now what you're going to do is, even though this is a worksheet, you're going to pretend like it's a textbook page. So don't write on this. Do your work on your paper. Okay? Take one copy and pass the rest of them behind you. This is your copy to keep. However, you're not going to write on it. You're going to do all your work in your notebook. Classwork has a time limit. So you're going to have about 7.5 minutes to work. When you start hearing the ticking goes for 10 seconds. So when you start hearing it, it means you've got 10 seconds left. And then when you hear the bong, it means your time is up. Okay? Any questions on what you're going to do? Yes, DeAndre?
Are you supposed to do this side or?
You're supposed to do the side that has the 4. Okay, for classwork, I usually do not take volunteers. Usually what I do is I just start revealing. So your time is up. Put your pencil down on your desk. Pick up your colored marker. You will be using your colored marker for the next 3 or 4 minutes. I reveal the answers and you mark your own paper. You must be 100% honest and forthright. That means you just mark your paper honestly, regardless of whether you're embarrassed or whether you care or don't care. Doesn't matter if you got anything wrong. I don't care if you get them all wrong. What I care about is if you get a bunch wrong today, Do you still get it wrong tomorrow? Do you make improvement? I could care less if you get questions wrong, okay? If you have an extra number in your answer, unfortunately it is wrong. If you are missing numbers from your answer, unfortunately it is wrong. So, number 1 we already know was 2 and 4. Number 2, the numbers that it's divisible by are 2, 3, 4, and 6. Number 3 was divisible by 3. Number 4 is divisible by 2, 5, and 10. Yes, David?
Sorry, 100 is also divisible by 4.
You already caught my mistake, which I was going to bring up in a minute. 100 is also divisible by 4, but the rule doesn't work. So it's kind of a flaw in the rule. So I will accept 2 answers for this. If you put 2, 5, and 10, you can mark it correct, even though it's kind of incorrect. It should be 2, 4, 5, and 10. Yes.
Is that number 3 also divided by 9? Wait, never mind.
Okay, I will never mind. This is also divisible by 4. The reason the rule didn't work is because you're supposed to take the last 2 digits, which is a 0 and a 0. So it's a flaw in the rule. Okay, so the rule doesn't work perfectly. But there were a bunch of you who kind of just thought about it and said, well, wait a minute, 100 is divisible by 4, I know it. Okay, so that was great instinct by many of you. If you didn't get it, don't worry about it. I made the same mistake. See? I left the 4 out as well. The only reason I found out about it is because like 3 years ago, one of my students told me that I had made a mistake. So don't worry about it. Number 5, 2, 3, 6, and 9, and number 6 is divisible by 3 and 5. So now your paper should have a bunch of C's and or X's on it. Now we're going to get an overall grade. Up where you wrote the assignment, you're going to make a fraction bar. Put a 6 as the denominator. Count up the number of questions you got correct. You always put the number correct on top. So if you got 4 of them correct, put a 4. If you got only 1 of them correct, put a 1. If you got all 6 of them correct, put a 6. Hopefully you got 4, 5, or 6 of them correct. Does anyone have any questions on the classwork assignment? Okay, we are done with this part of the lesson. So now on your paper, you're going to make the final line across your paper. You're going to be doing this every day. This is required. Draw a line across your paper.
What happens if it's the end of the
If you're at the bottom of the paper, flip it over. If it's the end of the back, go to the next page. And the last section every day is homework. So everyone write homework, or you can write a big HW, that's the same thing. But it needs to be clear, and let me explain why. When you come in tomorrow, you're going to take this whole lesson out and put it on the desk. Everything that you did today, from the warm-up, to the notes, to the classwork, to the homework. And I am going to come to your desk, I'm going to pick it up, and I'm going to look through it. And I need to easily be able to see your warm-up. I need to easily be able to see where you wrote your notes, your classwork, and your homework. It should jump out at me. If you make it difficult for me to find, I might miss it, and you might not get the points. Does anyone have any questions about that? So here's your homework tonight. Your homework. You need to memorize the divisibility rules. I have Quizlet flashcards on my website that I'm going to demonstrate for you in a minute. Start memorizing the rules. You are going to finish that side of the worksheet. You're going to do numbers 7 through 21. Any work that you need to do to get the questions correct, need to show on your paper. Do all of the questions on your loose leaf, your notebook paper. That's what I will be grading. And lastly, make sure you have all the required supplies. It doesn't mean you have to have everything by tomorrow, but you should be starting to get yourself organized for tomorrow by Thursday.